Hi everyone, thanks for coming back for part 5. In my last video, I was just about to go over the matrix that's coming up in this table about the finish line. But before I do that, I just wanted to back up a little bit and just point out a couple of things that were in some of these previous tables that I had done in the last video. And if you go back to this one that's on Pentecost, that comes up in the book of Exodus in chapter 19, which is the exact location in the Bible where it talks about the very first Pentecost, or the very first Shavuot, when Jehovah descended upon Mount Sinai, when he descended fire upon it just before he gave Moses the 10 Commandments. And we had talked about all the parallels between Mount Sinai and what happened on Pentecost in the book of Acts. Well, I just wanted to show you something, because if you read verse 16, it says, "And it came to pass on the third day, when it was morning, that there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud upon the mount, and the voice of a trumpet exceeding loud, and all the people that were in the camp trembled." Well, when you put in thunders and lightnings in the Blue Letter Bible, I just want to show you what comes up. It comes up only twice in the Bible. One is in Exodus 19:16, which is what we just read, that was coming up in the matrix. And the other time you see thunders and lightnings mentioned in the Bible is in Revelation 16:18. And it says, I'll just read that verse. It says, "And there were voices and thunders and lightnings, and there was a great earthquake, such as was not since men were upon the earth, so mighty an earthquake, and so great." And then when you go back to the table, you see that it speaks of an earthquake. Just a couple of verses later, in verse 18, it says, "And Mount Sinai, the whole of it smoked, because Jehovah descended upon it in fire, and the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mount quaked greatly." So there was an earthquake on Mount Sinai when God gave the 10 Commandments, and there's an earthquake here in Revelation 16:18 when God pours out the vials on the earth. And it says, "And I heard a great voice out of the temple, saying to the 7 angels, Go your ways and pour out the vials of wrath, of the wrath of God upon the earth." So this is just before God pours out the vials on the earth. And I'm just scrolling over the text here. And you can read it, you can pause it and read it if you like. But then it gets to verse 18, where it talks about thunders and lightnings and a great earthquake. And then just after that, the great city was divided into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell, and great Babylon came into remembrance before God, to give unto her the cup of wine of the fierceness of his wrath. So this is just before God pours out his wrath on Babylon. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out, because as we saw, there was a parallel between the first Shavuot and what happened on Mount Sinai, and with what happened in the book of Acts at the Lord's first coming, just after 50 days after first fruits, when the Lord was resurrected. And then we see a parallel here between the mention of thunders and lightnings in Exodus 19:16, and then we see it mentioned again in Revelation 16:18. So I just wanted to point that out. And there was something else I wanted to point out that was coming up in this table over here, which is also about Pentecost. So I'll go ahead and pull it up. And what I noticed in this table, I'll just go ahead and read the top just to refresh your memory about this one. It said Trump, Obama, Pentecost, Natan, Eden, near death. And what I noticed after I had done the video is I noticed that it has a word war right here 3 times in a row. So you see war, war, war. So I don't know if that's an indication of the Third World War or not, but just having 3 wars right on top of each other just like that, I thought that was significant. So I thought I would point that out. You see the word ward over here on this side as well. So it's not just 3 times in the table, it's more than 3 times, but it's 3 times in a row right here, one right on top of the other. So I just thought I would point that out because obviously Natan's vision was about the end times and the Third World War. He had said that in the video, that they're going to be saying in the news that the Third World War had begun. So I just wanted to point that out, and I may have to go back to the video just to point that out, but I'll do that at a later time. But I just wanted to point that out for now, and I wanted to go ahead and read the matrix in this table over here that was about the finish line. And just to refresh your memory about this one reads at the top, finish line, bride, Passover, postpone. So I had put in the words postpone and they came up. You can see the second part comes up here at the top. You see the word pone in the yellow up here at the top. And you see post over here at the bottom in the green. And then you see the word pass over here in the bluish purple, and it's meshed in with over in the light blue. They're meshed in together, and then right under Passover is where you have the word finish and line, and they come up in one line over here in the matrix. And like I had said in the last video, they seem to come up exactly where you would expect the finish line to be for the bride. And I forgot to mention the word bride comes up here in an angle in the lavender going this way. It's almost like it's approaching the finish line because right here it says finished. If you put in the whole word, bride, finished, and this is the finish line. So it's almost like it's coming to a point over there. And the matrix seems to be where you would expect that to be. It's in the book of Revelation in chapter 11, and it starts in verse 3 and goes through to verse 9. So I'll go ahead and read that matrix. It says, "And I will give unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. These are the 2 olive trees and the 2 candlesticks standing before the Lord of the earth. And if any man desireth to hurt them, fire proceedeth out of their mouth, and devoureth their enemies. And if any man shall desire to hurt them in this manner, must he be killed. These have the power to shut the heaven, that it rain not during the days of their prophecy, and they have power over the waters to turn them into blood, and to smite the earth with every plague as often as they shall desire. And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that cometh up out of the abyss shall make war with them, and overcome them and kill them. And their dead bodies lie in the streets of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also their Lord was crucified. And from among the peoples and tribes and tongues and nations do men look upon their dead bodies 3 days and a half, and suffer not their dead bodies to be laid in a tomb. And they that dwell on the earth rejoice over them and make merry, and they shall send gifts one to another, because these 2 prophets tormented them that dwell on the earth. And I'm just going to go ahead and pull that up in the Blue Letter Bible so I can continue reading, because that's obviously not the end right there, but that's just all that's showing up in this matrix. So I need to read the next few verses to get to the finish line. So let me just pull that up real quick. Okay, I had read through verse 10, and then the next verse down would be verse 11, and it says, "And after 3 days and a half, the Spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. And I heard a great voice from heaven, saying unto them, Come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. And at the same hour was there a great earthquake, and the 10th part of the city fell, and in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000, and the remnant were affrighted, and gave glory to the God of heaven." And of course there's more to Revelation 11, but I'm not going to read that. You can pause it and read the rest if you'd like. It goes through to verse 19. And what I want to do next is I want to share one more Bible code that was in this particular file that I have saved over here. I have lots and lots of Bible codes, and I have some really exciting ones that I want to share next. And this one's pretty exciting too, so I want to go ahead and share this one, and it also has to do with Pentecost. And as we saw in the Bible code on Pentecost that was coming in Exodus 19, I think it's no accident that it came up in that precise spot in the scriptures. So I do think it's valid to, or I know it's valid at this point after that, to break up 2-part words into 2 parts like this. That's still valid in the codes. And I've seen even rabbis do it in the Hebrew. I recently saw a video where a rabbi did that as well. He broke up a 2-part word, and he included that in his Bible code. So I just want to, it was actually Rabbi Glazerson. So I just want to go ahead over this table because this one's really interesting, and I'm obviously going to have to continue it in the next video, but I want to go ahead and get started on it. And in this one, I put in the words betroth, Yeshua, may, wed, new moon, wise, oil lamp. And you see the word betroth comes up here in the light red with the letters B, E, T, R, O, T, H. And as you can see, that's a pretty big word to come up in a matrix. And the word wed, which is short for wedding, comes up in ELS form, but you also see it right here, right in the middle of the word betrothed, and it's talking about wedding wives for the tribe of Benjamin. So it's talking about weddings taking place. And I just want to show you the word betrothed, the definition of that. So I'll just pause it for just a second. Okay, I've pulled the definition up, but I don't think I'm going to have time to read it because I'm just about out of time. So I'm going to have to continue in the next video. Thanks.